Hey everybody, I am coming making this video message, and this is a part 2 to the video I made the day before yesterday about why a lot of people are leaving the physical church. So if you all have not viewed the first video, please go and view that one, and I would like you all to come into the comment section on this video and give your feedback, because I was very impressed and touched by a lot of you all's transparency and honesty about why you no longer go to the physical church, or why you stopped going to your physical church. Now, don't get me wrong, this video message is not to encourage or to promote not going to a physical church. I just believe that we need to have these conversations because there are so many of us that are scattered, and we are scattered because different things have gone on. And until people start talking to the ones who are scattered or who has experienced church hurt or abuse by the hand of a leader or leadership, then a lot of people will just be left to make assumptions, and they will misjudge the ones who are not faithfully going to a physical church. So just in this video message, I'm going to give a few more reasons why a lot of people are leaving the church. One of the biggest reasons that I've seen with my own eyes as to why a lot of people are leaving the physical church is because of the simple fact people are waking up to realize that a lot of men of God are not teaching them to get to know God for themselves. A lot of pastors, they don't teach the congregants to get to know God for themselves. A lot of them, what they're doing, they are teaching people to conform or to come into agreement with their vision. They want you to come into agreement with their personal vision or the vision of the house, meaning the church as a whole. You don't really see pastors stand up in a pulpit and tell their congregation, listen, I am just a mere man. I can be vulnerable. I can sin. I can fall and make a mistake. So if I fall and make a mistake, then you need to know God for yourself. You all need to be able to go to God and pray or request certain things of God. Don't always just wait and depend on me. Get to know God for yourselves. You don't see pastors, to be 100% real with you all. We are not seeing pastors teach this to the congregation. A lot of men of God, they make church and people's experience as far as why they're coming to church, they make it about them. And so a lot of the flock, sons and daughters, they have awakened to this fact. They've awakened to, you know what, I've been going to church for 10 years. I've been going to church for 15 years, and I don't even know God. I know my pastor. I know what my pastor has told me I need to do. I know my pastor prophesies as well, and I've told him all my business, and he suggested certain things I need to do to straighten up my life. But really, I don't know God for myself. A lot of people out here, they don't even feel the presence of God because they don't know God, because it's never been taught to them. And I've been saved since I was 6 years old. And my father, I didn't have a choice. Me and my brothers did not have a choice whether we wanted to go to church or not. But it came to a point where I was like, I have not been taught how to seek God for myself. I'm saying when I was younger, going to my childhood church, because then, and my first pastor, God rest his soul, that was not being taught. But he was an excellent pastor. I don't have anything bad to say about him. And so all I'm saying is that a lot of people now in the 21st century and in 2024, they have awakened to the fact that they really don't know God, but they realize it because real things are kicking off now in their lives. A lot of spiritual attacks have come. The enemy has stepped his game up. Globally, the world is changing. Politically, leadership is changing. Things are changing in politics. Economically, things are changing. And so we need God more than ever. We cannot rely on the pastors because pastors are falling. Leaders are falling now. So that is another reason why a lot of people, they are making the decision to no longer go to, the physical church. Another reason why people are not going to the physical church is this. If they go to church on a Sunday or a Saturday, if they don't see their pastor, they may question some people that work up under the pastor, like the pastor's security guards, his armor bearers, other ministers, and other pastors in their ministry. And if they tell them, well, pastor is out for 2 weeks, he's going to be preaching somewhere else, or pastor is on a vacation, he's not going to be here. A lot of people, they leave the church and they will not return until the man of God comes back. Because there are some pastors, they are what you call a floating pastor. They are training other pastors or other churches. So they're not always at their home church every single Sunday. But a lot of people, they feel some type of way about that. A lot of the congregants, they don't want to hear another voice. If you tell them, listen, the bishop is out for 2 weeks, he's on vacation getting some rest. The apostle is out, he's on vacation getting some rest. He won't be here, but we're going to have a lot of guest preachers and teachers and prophets and prophetess come in. A lot of congregants, I'm sorry, they not feeling that. And you know what? I'm laughing, but it's actually a sad state of affairs, as I always say, because some people idolize their pastor so much to where they don't want to hear another voice but their personal man of God. And God is so offended by this. God is so offended by idols. And so idols are falling. Now you're finding out, you're starting to see your favorite pastors, they are falling, they are getting uncovered because a lot of people have made them their God. Whoever would have thought that we would see it, but we're seeing it. And people are just flaky like that. They are flaky like that. They don't want to hear another voice besides their bishop, their pastor, their minister, their apostle. And it's some first ladies that preach. And if their first lady is not in the house and they have someone to come in her place until she comes back, they don't want to hear her. That's a fact. That's a fact. Another reason why a lot of people are leaving the physical church. Anyway, another reason a lot of people are leaving the physical church is because of judgment. Now, you all already know, if you just say Jesus Christ's name, people are going to automatically accuse you of being judgmental. Anytime you talk about God, they're going to accuse you of being religious or having a religious spirit, or they are going to accuse you of being judgmental. So I'm not talking about that kind of judgment that people will accuse you of. I'm talking about literal judgment, meaning somebody does not know God the way you know God. Some of you all, you've been walking with God for the past 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. But it can be somebody that's only known God, or they just got saved 6 months ago or 8 months ago. It could be 2-3 weeks ago. And so when they come into the church, they may not be dressed the way you expect them to dress. And so a lot of people will judge them. They will talk about them. They will turn their noses up at them, not realizing that that person is a babe in Christ and their mindset is still in the world, and it takes time. Gradually, God delivers you and cleanses you, and those sins that you've been accustomed to being involved in, they start to fall off of you. But there's a lot of judgment in the house of God. And so people don't want to come in anymore. They don't want to come in. They don't want to worship. They just don't. Another reason why a lot of people are leaving the physical church is because they feel out of place. Some churches out here, unfortunately, will make you feel out of place. They make you feel out of place because you may not have the money that they have to buy the designer clothes. I'm sorry. You may not have the fancy clothes that they wear. Let's say you go to a church and the man of God asks you to wear a certain color every second Sunday or every third Sunday. Some people, they can't afford to buy that particular color because they only have 3 or 4 outfits. And so if they feel like that, then they'll be too ashamed or too embarrassed to come to church because they don't fit in. And so that is a reason why a lot of people will leave the physical church, because they just cannot keep up with the extra over the top, like I said, shenanigans that go on in the church. They can't keep up with it. And that's a fact. Now, a lot of you all, you may not feel like that's a big deal, but to some people, how they dress, that's a big deal to them. If you all think about it right now, when a topic of church comes up, and let's say you're talking about an old church you used to go to, somebody may hear you and say, oh, I used to go to that church. Do you know so-and-so? Or do you know so-and-so? So-and-so was my Sunday school teacher, and so-and-so was this and that. You may say, oh, they used to wear blah, blah, blah. You may not know somebody's name, but you know them by how they dressed. So let's not act like we're not looking at people's outfits when you go into the house of God. I'm not saying some of you all look at these people clothing and you become obsessed or envious of it, but you notice it. That's what they're known for. Just like it's certain people in the house of God that's known for shouting every single Sunday. It doesn't matter what's going on, they're going to catch the Holy Ghost. We know that we gonna see people in the church, they always dancing around the church, they always running up and down the church. It's some people, every time praise and worship happens, they the one that's screaming. Literally, you know, that same woman or that same man is going to be extra over the top and be screaming and hollering and shouting to the top of their lungs, just like clockwork. You know that. And so that's a real fact. Another reason why a lot of people are leaving the house of God is because church politics. Now, you all know that a lot of men and women of God, they have their actual family members in a church. They may have their mom there, they may have their father there, they may have certain uncles and aunties there. And so they have these people there, and they are in that ministry. And when they're in that ministry, they put them in the front to do a certain job over other people who are qualified. You will see certain people in church. Okay, you may see your first lady or your pastor, and their mother goes there, or their father goes there, or their aunties, cousins, and uncles. You know that they're not anointed. You know they're not called. But simply because that man of God or that woman of God, that's their church, they're going to put their family members in front of you. Now, you may very well be anointed and appointed and called, but they're not going to put you on a certain auxiliary because they want their mom there. They want their dad there. They want their son or daughter there. They want the uncle or the cousin there. This is a fact. And so when it comes to the church politics, when it comes to people feeling out of place because they don't have the money to dress the way that leadership dresses, when it's some people who idolize the man or the woman of God because they don't respect another voice outside of them, and then when it's some people who have awakened to the fact that they are not being taught to seek God for themselves, this is why a lot of people, they are not feeling the physical church. We have to have these conversations, guys. Like I told you all in the beginning of this message, this is not to encourage anyone to not go to church or to not believe in God or to give up on going to the physical church. But it is a conversation that we need to have. And these things that I've been talking about in these messages, they have to be talked about, because nobody wants to address the pink elephant or the crocodile in the room. People will act like you are overreacting, you are spiritually immature, or you are thinking too deep in a situation when you see certain things in the house of God. But if you see something that makes you uncomfortable, or if you notice something and you speak out on it, nobody should overlook you, reject you, and shun your sentiments. This is why I also told you all earlier this week, you never allow anybody to invalidate your feelings, your journey, or your experience. People in the house of God, when it comes to God, when it comes to religion, when it comes to church, which is the house of God, People feel like they have all the answers as to why certain people are not feeling the physical church anymore. It's always, oh, that person doesn't want to repent. That person doesn't want to come out of sin. That person is rebellious. It's never, you know what? Let me sit down and actually talk to some of the sheep in the flock and find out their issues and their concerns with ministry, or why they don't want to come to church. And you know that there are a lot of people who are not ecstatic about coming to church, because certain people will come to church just to get something from the church. They'll come to church on Sunday to get a couple of dollars to pay a bill, and you never see them again. There are people who come into the house of God and they'll go to the food pantry, and after they get their food, you will never see them again. You only see them again when they want more money or when they want more food from the food pantry. And that's it. You'll have people that come in and they want prayer. They're sick in their body. They need healing. And after you lay hands on them and prophesy to them, and you wish them well and invite them to come to church, you do not see them again. So it's so many different things going on in the house of God. There is a progression of numerous, a manifold of different things going on in the house of God. But who's going to stand up to address these matters? How does the church, where there are many people who have been abused by leadership, who have been overlooked by leadership, who have been rejected by leadership, who have been set up by leadership, when do, or how do, I should say, how do we heal from this? What is the first step that we take? After we've gone to God and we've shared our tears in the presence of God and we've laid at the feet of God everything we've gone through, what is the next step? A lot of you all may say, well, Kiki, the next step is that we continue to wait on God. The physical church is not where we find the will of God in our lives. See, you all got to understand too what's happening in the spiritual realm. What is happening in the spiritual realm is people have also awakened to the fact that the church does not have the answers that a lot of us are looking for. Some of you all, you've been going to church for a while and you don't even really feel the presence of God there anymore like you used to. I know I cannot be the only one. And sometimes you got to take a step back and say, maybe it's me. Maybe mentally and emotionally, I'm just going through some things. I know I went through a lot. Losing my father, losing my mother, going through so many other things that I'm not about to get into. But it's like you go through World War III. And when you go through these things, sometimes you could be the one that's tripping. But when you really get past that and you let that go and God deals with you, it may be a little bit of residue left there, just if we honest. But when you just get past that, what's the next step? What do you do? So it could just very well be, you know what? I'm not finding what I'm looking for in church. You kind of feel lost. It was like that with me. I'm going to just tell you all this before I get out of here. It was getting to the point, if I'm honest, outside of what I told you all I experienced, it was getting to the point that I did not 100% feel the presence of God. And I still don't have the answer if it was just me and my trauma and hurt because I was grieving. It could just have been that. So I'm not going to blame it on my old church. It could have literally just been me. I admit that. I take accountability and responsibility if it was really me. But there seemed to be a block there where the feeling that I got when I was there for all of those years, it was like it left. It was no longer there. It was no longer there. I didn't feel the same. I felt like it was a block there. I felt I was doing things mechanically and like it was animated. It did not feel authentic anymore. And it happened and it caught me off guard. And like I told you all in the first video message, I was not in any scandal. I was not in any mess. There was literally nothing going on besides the fact that I had just lost my father months before. That's it. It was nothing else that kicked off. but I just no longer felt the presence of God. And that's just real talk. So guys, if you all were confused or you just wanted to know more reasons why people are not choosing to go into the physical church, if you are a pastor or you are a first lady viewing this video message and you've been stumped and confused as to why a lot of people are leaving your ministry or you're not seeing the familiar faces, I just ask you all respectfully and humbly and with love, consider these things that I discussed and talked about, because you all have got to make certain changes. Leadership has got to clean up the way they've been doing things. And now the way leadership does things in the house of God, it has to be done differently now. It cannot be done the same way. It has to be done differently. The way God moved before, that's not the way God is moving now in this season. People want more of God. People want an authentic touch, encounter, and experience with God. We can no longer do church the way we used to do it. We can't be focused on our hair and our clothes. We can't be theatrical and overly animated, telling people to get up, telling them to run down the aisle, telling them to jump up and down, telling them to jump on the stage. The praise has to be pure, because I'm going to tell you all something too. And I know this will help somebody. You've got to get to a level in your worship with God where you literally get completely lost in worshiping who God is. I've told you all this before. Can you really get into the presence of God and you completely lose yourself and you are praising and worshiping God, and it's an internal thing? It's your inner man, it's your spirit, and you are not thinking about God sending you a spouse. You are not thinking about God sending you money. You are not thinking about God making you a millionaire or blowing you up to star status. You literally are just lost, and you are marveled at just the existence of Jesus Christ. From the beginning of time, you start to really feel and comprehend, like, wow, he is the I am that I am. And I don't even know how, but I am just persuaded and convinced to wholeheartedly submit to this energy and to this presence and to this spirit. I believe that Jesus Christ was sent by God. When you can get to that point where you just praise and worship God for who he is with no theatrics. Because I'm going to tell you, when they doing all the extra and the theatrics, a lot of times I would sit back and be like, just thinking to myself secretly, okay, now when we done with the theatrics, can we get to the real praise and worship? That was my mentality. That was my attitude. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you guys. That's just what it was. The extra stuff, guys, we cannot. And the black church has this so bad. We are trained. I never thought I would see a day where somebody said, you got to be taught how to speak in tongues. What are we doing? Speaking in tongues is a gift. You cannot sit nobody down and teach them and train them on how to speak in tongues. Just a lot of the shenanigans like I talked about in part 1. So guys, let's just get it together. That's the video message. Well, guys, it's time for me to go because I have some other things to do. The Lord willing, I will be back with another video message. If any one of you have taken offense to anything I spoke about in this video message, it's okay. It's all right. I'm not worried about it. I am not concerned because I know you will forgive me in the morning.